Monday at noon on 88.9 WEIU. Now, Issues and Attitudes.
And a very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Issues and Attitudes. I am Jeff Owens, director at interim director at WEIU TV and Radio. My co-host is Alicia Haynes.
Hello.
And our guest today, making his first appearance on the show, is Charleston firefighter Beau Goodwin.
Hello.
We appreciate you coming in today, Beau.
Hey, not a problem.
All right, we're going to move you up close to that mic because you got that soft-spoken voice. Well, I know there's a lot of stuff we want to talk about, but let's talk about some of the things that you want to get going right now. I know that the Charleston Fire Department is going to do a Thanksgiving food basket program. You know, tell us about it and how people can get involved.
Well, the big thing is we do the Thanksgiving food basket every year, and what we do is we kind of send out some mailers and we take donations, and we try to provide Thanksgiving food baskets for needy families in the area. So as far as people who can't afford a Thanksgiving meal or moms that have kids or stuff like that, and we just try to make their holidays just that much better. And what we do is after the donations, we provide up to 200 baskets a year, and we'll grab a team of people together, and we're always happy to help people come and help deliver, and we'll surprise those people with Thanksgiving food baskets, and then it's basically a 3-course meal to give you the whole Thanksgiving experience.
Okay, and so you can do up to 200?
Yep, we do up to 200, and that all just kind of depends on donations and how it goes.
And where are you right now in the scheme of how many baskets you have ready, or is it just starting right now?
We're actually kind of in the middle of it right now, so we've got we're about halfway to what we're wanting to get. And then once we hit the 200 food baskets, we take the rest of the money, and we also provide scholarships through the Charleston High School for people to continue on and go to college. And then we also provide a donation to Camp New Hope for their party at the end of the year.
Well, that's cool.
So where does the money come from?
This year we actually sent out a mailer around the community, and then we just asked for people for donations. The Thanksgiving food basket costs $40. However, you can donate anything or nothing, and we should appreciate, any help.
That's fantastic.
Is it always a cash donation, or can they do the food, or is it just cash?
We actually get the food from a grocery store, and they provide everything already packaged, so we don't take food donations, but we do just take cash.
Oh, that's neat. And so is it just for Charleston? Is it or Charleston area, or where all do you go?
Oh, so we just deliver to the Charleston area. Matt Toon also does the Thanksgiving food basket, and then there's some other areas that do it as well.
Now, you're relatively new on the force, right?
Yes, I've been there for 3 years.
So this is kind of your thing. You're going to eventually take over for the CFD?
Currently, I'm job shadowing the person that's been in charge of it for the past 18 years that we've done it. His name's Todd Foster, and then he's going to be retiring, and I'll be taking over the program.
Are you excited?
Yeah, it'd be definitely a new experience.
So,
a little bit of a challenge.
Because you're shadowing him now, what's that like? What are some of the benefits from it? And then is it stressful?
Not so much stressful. He's got it very organized. He's been doing it for the last 17. This will be the 18th year. So he's already figured out all the difficulties or the problems and has all those figured out. It's definitely a lot more work than what I thought it was initially. There's a lot that goes into it.
Why do you think they went for the young guy, the new guy?
They figured I'd be there for a few years to continue her, so.
That's cool. And so 200 people, so is I guess the sad part of this is there's a need for 200 folks that don't have Thanksgiving like maybe we all do that need these baskets to deliver to their homes.
Oh yeah, we get, what we do is we also ask people to call in and they can nominate families to receive the food baskets. And what it does is we get a whole list and we keep track of how many people are in the home, how many kids and stuff like that. And we try to, obviously deliver as many as we can, but there's always people on the list that we don't have enough food baskets for.
Now, when do you actually deliver them? Is it the week of Thanksgiving, the day of Thanksgiving?
Yeah, we'll deliver them the week of Thanksgiving, mostly because of the frozen turkey, and that way if they don't have somewhere to put it, they can thaw for a couple of days, and then they can cook it on Thanksgiving.
That's pretty cool. Let's talk a little bit about other things that the Charleston Fire Department does. I know this past weekend you had the open house, and unfortunately we usually get to be there at Hit Mix, but we had already signed up for another event. But talk about how the open house went this past weekend here in Charleston.
The open house went really well. Obviously you have free food, get some people to come out, but we had some great events. Every hour we did some extrication. We cut up a car, demonstrated to the public, if you're in a car accident, how we get you out and how that works. The Charleston Police Department also came out, and they had their dog with them. They showed how they searched a car, and then they also decided to put their deputy chief in a bite sleeve and let the dog bite him, and that's always fun to see. So, they're very pretty creatures, but man, they're definitely strong and fast.
It's fire. Was it Fire Prevention Week last week, or is it this week? I'm confused on I know it's Charleston. It's been a lot of fire prevention weeks going on, so it's a good time for you to be on and talk about things. But when it's fire prevention time, this time of year, you got furnaces coming on, you got more things happening. So talk about ways that people can kind of be prepared this fall.
So as fire prevention goes, I mean, we kind of do things throughout the whole month of October almost. We'll go around and visit all the schools, and we teach the kids, stop, drop, and roll. If your smoke detector goes off, what to do, call 911. We make sure that they all know their address, because if their parents aren't home or whatever. And obviously, everybody's turning on their furnace now, especially since we have frost in the morning now. I've been noticing on the roofs and everything like that. So, your furnaces, they sit all summer, and you want to make sure, that everything's working properly. Change out your furnace filters. Here in a couple weeks, we have the time change, and then every year whenever you do your time change, make sure you change your batteries and all your smoke detectors. Just the smoke detector can save so many lives, but people always forget to check the batteries and everything like that. So if you just do it on the time change, it always makes sure it works properly.
How many, on a normal, let's say ranch style home in Charleston or Mattoon, how many smoke detectors should a home have? A lot of people I know, they have one for sure because they feel like they're obligated, but should they have more than one?
Yeah, you should always have one near all the bedrooms. If you have two bedrooms right near each other, you can put one in the hallway, and then you should have one in your cooking areas. And then, if your furnace is in the basement, you need to have a carbon monoxide detector for that.
Okay.
What about the dorm, or the residence halls, I should say, because they don't call them dorms anymore.
So,
those are always fun whenever we hear them, because I work at the Daily Eastern News, so of course we have the scanner going, and it's always popcorn burning or something like that. So
yeah,
what about that?
I think Eastern should definitely come up with maybe a cooking class sometimes. But hey, we're there for it. We don't ever want to make sure that it's not something serious, so we always respond like it is a true alarm. And they have full detection systems that Eastern Police gets notified, CCON, the dispatch agency, gets notified, and they just, every room has a detector, and then also
Right.
the cooking areas, and then everywhere. So there's a whole bunch.
Now, you were working yesterday, and you said off mic that you had 31 calls on a Sunday in Charleston. That's an abnormally large number of calls. Was there a reason furnaces getting kicked on, or what? What'd you think?
No, there's no real reason. There's never a rhyme or reason on why we have a lot of calls or not a whole lot of calls. It just seems like over the years we get busier and busier, and it just happened to be out. Everybody needed some help yesterday.
Obviously, your dad was the fire chief, Pat Goodwin, here in Charleston. Did you know you always wanted to be a firefighter, or was it just in your blood, or how'd that come about? Tell us about it.
I can't say I always knew I wanted to be a firefighter. It was always there as an idea. I always thought it was cool. Saw Dad there. It always looked like something that would be a blast to do. I wanted my career to be something fun that I never thought I was going to work every day. I was just going to, But after high school, I kind of messed around for a year trying to decide what you want to do. It's a hard decision once you graduate. There's so many options. And then I took the paramedic class and liked it and met some buddies, and we all had a good time. And then I got on the fire department, and I wouldn't want to do anything else.
There you go. So you're a lifer is what you're going to say?
Nah, I'm a lifer. I ain't going anywhere.
There you go. Now, how many firefighters does the Charleston Fire Department have on its staff unit or whatever,
So currently we have 3 11-man shifts, and that'd be 33 total firefighters and then 2 chiefs.
Now, was it hard getting used to the work 24 hours straight and then 2 days off? That's the normal. How did your body adjust to that? It always fascinated me how you guys get used to that.
It definitely takes a little bit to adjust, just like any job. If you have different schedules or work like that. I worked at a ambulance service before that, so we worked the same 24, 48. So you kind of get used to that there a little bit. So it wasn't as hard of a transition for me. But it definitely takes some time. And then those nights that you don't get any sleep, you kind of have to get used to not getting as much sleep as always. But you work through it, and then it's just kind of part of a routine.
I know you said you had 31 calls on Sunday. Do you guys track how many calls you have over a year? Do you have any statistics about how many calls?
Yeah, so we track how many calls every year, how many ambulance calls, how many fire calls, alarms and stuff like that. Last year we hit 4,500, and this year I believe we're on pace to right around 5,000 calls.
Is that high, low, or have you? I know you're brand new at this, a little bit, not brand new, but relatively new.
As far as the area, that's the highest number that we've ever had in this area. We just keep on increasing. But as far as how it compares to other areas, every town's different. It just depends on what you have. Obviously, we have the college and stuff like that, so that it gives us a few more calls.
Burn food.
The other thing I've noticed that a lot of more, and I don't know if it concerns the fire department, so many more open pits, fire pits, or that'd be some of the thing that everybody has in their backyard. As a fire department, does that concern you that there's a lot more open burning in towns, such that we live in?
I wouldn't think it would concern us. We obviously have a burning pit in Charleston as far as what you can have, and there's a standard. And then, obviously you can't burn trash, don't be burning tires or anything like that. But no, as long as they do it properly and safely and they extinguish it, there shouldn't be any issues.
I think the worry would be people who are intoxicated and burning stuff. That always seems to be a bad story.
Never ends well. What do people ask you the most as being a fire department? You're from Charleston, so as being a firefighter, what do people ask you the most about being a firefighter?
What do they ask me the most? And there's always so many questions. I mean, a lot of times on calls, I'll ask you, how do you like it? The schedule is a big question too. How do you get used to that schedule? And then how many calls you run? And then they start asking about your calls. What's the coolest? What's the weirdest? And stuff like that. So,
We'll get to that in a little bit. Right?
Have you
That's
ever
fine.
touched a fire?
What's the hottest fire you ever touched? No. When you think about being a fireman, I know the biggest. I mean, I think of the Mother's Fire was within the last year here in Charleston,
Last
right?
spring.
So I think that's when people think. They always think about the last big fire. Were you on duty then?
I actually was. I was on a time trade for somebody. So that's when we work for somebody else
Yeah.
and we trade. They work for me, I work for them. And I think it was like 2 or 3 a.m. or something like that. And that call came in, and they followed up with, once they dispatched the fire, that there were occupants trapped, and that definitely just totally changes your mindset. It's time to go to work at that point.
Talk about the resources that were used that day to save those people, and then the amount just to try to put that fire out.
I mean, obviously took a lot of help. I mean, whenever we first got there, the officers, and they do their 360, they kind of get everything organized, and then they give us, what our assignments. We heard one of the officers holler over the radio that he needed a ladder to the back of the building. So me and another firefighter, we took a ladder to the back of the building. There was all kinds of power lines in the alleyway. We make sure to not hit those, obviously, with a ladder. And we threw it up there, and then we rescued the 2 people off the roof. I mean, it's a team effort from everybody. And then while we were doing that, there was another crew advancing a hose line upstairs and trying to attack the fire. And then there was another family that we had to open up a door on the side of the building to let out mom and a couple of her kids and stuff like that. So there's a ton of moving pieces and trying to keep it all organized. And then we had Lincoln Fire that came over, Mattoon Fire that came over. Whenever you have that magnitude of a fire, it really takes a lot of water and manpower to.
I've noticed that one thing that the fire departments all do is they work so closely together, and they all kind of have that buddy system. So you always know that if you're fire in Charleston, Mattoon's going to come, and maybe some of the volunteer districts. What does that mean to you as a fireman, knowing that you guys are just like when a fire hits, you're just one team?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, it's just the fire service in general is just one big brotherhood. I mean, no matter if you have different views or whatever, if there's a fire and everybody needs help, all that just goes out the window, and everybody's just there for each other.
Now, you're, again, 3 or 4 years into being a firefighter. Did you still have ongoing training and stuff that you're going to do as you move up the ladder? There's a very terrible pun.
So, always. You can never know enough. You can never be efficient enough. You can always be better. You can always learn more. There's constantly research that's going into, how fire behaves, the best ways to attack a fire. I mean, all those go, so you never, ever stop learning.
And is there specialists, too, that, like their fire rescue or like underwater rescue and all that you can also go into on the side, or is that part of the Charleston Fire Department?
I mean, as far as the fire rescue, that's kind of all built into the being a firefighter. We also have a hazmat team, which we all go to school for to handle any hazmat incidents. And then we also have a technical rescue team, which, collapse, trenches, high-angle rescues, and stuff like that. So you can specialize and move on either one of those teams also.
Now, do you specialize in anything right now, or is there something that you think you're better at, or anything?
Well, I've got a lot to learn. I'm still fairly new. So, I mean, I'm hazmat certified, so I'm on the hazmat team right now. And then, so, I mean, I'm still learning a ton with that, though. But, yeah, they send us to several classes, and then...
Do you have a question? I
No,
didn't want to
no.
hog, so
No, you're fine.
Things are racing through my mind. You said something about the officers do a 360. Now, that kind of just went over our heads, but I thought about it.
Oh.
So, take us, and I know you can use Mothers as the example, since that's the biggest recent fire here in Charleston. But, when you guys are getting ready or you're on your way, take us through the first things you do, and then the 360, what that means, and then as you're preparing to battle that fire and get people out, can you take us through some of those steps?
Yeah, so as far as when the officers 360, or they arrive on scene, I mean, a lot of times when you drive and pull up scene, you want to at least see 2 sides of the building with the fire apparatus, and they're going to give a size up, what they see, what's going on. They're going to pay attention, where the hydrants are at, where water hookups are at, and then they're going to walk around the building, and they're looking for, where gas enters, where electrical enters, where there are any occupants, and that's how the one officer found the 2 occupants on the back of Mothers on that little step out from one of the rooms, yeah. So, and then they're just kind of, what needs to be done, and, a lot of them have lots of experience, and they know, okay, we need this here, and then they direct it to us, and away we go.
What do people not know that you do on a fire call?
Not know.
Yeah, is there something that we would never think about that you guys have to do? Like, I mean, you said the gas, electricity, whatever. Is there certain things?
There's not a certain thing, I guess, I wouldn't think of. There's just a lot of things that go on that it's not necessarily just putting water on the fire to put out. I mean, you need to make sure that nobody's in there. Is everybody out? Is the power killed the building? Has there been any collapses? And then a lot of times people don't think about is, just search a whole building, and then you start getting some of these houses that are so cut up, and upstairs there's 5 rooms, and there's this hallway that you go through, and if it's all smoky, you usually have to keep your bearing, and there's a lot more things that go on. I mean, it's just tons of moving pieces all at once.
Was the Mother's the biggest fire that you had been called to?
Yes, by far.
By far. Now, was there any other ones that you could think of that are in your recent career that that you just stand out, like that you were? I don't think it was word scared, but you guys you're the hairs are standing up and you're ready to attack.
I was saying the Mother's was definitely the biggest one by far. It was definitely got you amped up a little bit. But we had some other fires this year too. Some of them were single rooms and homes and stuff like that.
And there was the one up by I can't think of, up by Huck's, for lack of a better way.
Yes, there was the warehouse.
Warehouse there, yeah.
Coincidentally, I was working that day too, so we went in there. But yeah, that was a fairly big fire too. So there was nobody in there, which that's always, I would think, would be the biggest relief if you're an officer, knowing that everybody's out of the building. And I mean, we still do a primary search and make sure that nobody's in there in a secondary search, but I feel like that would take a level of stress off, knowing okay, everybody's out.
You're not looking for people. That's the first thing you check off.
Yeah. So, but no, I mean, it's just, every fire's different. It throws different curveballs at you, and then depending on where you're at, you do different things and different tasks. And
so, is there like I don't want to say a ritual, but a routine that you do before you go out on a call? So, for example, like athletes will put on their lucky socks or whatever. Is there something that you do?
Almost like a.
I guess it would be like a ritual or like a lucky thing or.
No, not really. I put on my fire gear and then away we go.
How long do you, when you hear the thing go off, you guys are ready. How long is it when the fire alarm goes off at the house that you're on the truck and out? Is there a goal that you guys like to be out of the building in 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes on the way?
I don't think you can ever be out of the building too fast. You need to be dressed and ready to go, I would say, in 60 seconds. We have all of our gear set out and ready, so whenever you're ready to go, you go out, hop in your boots, throw on your coat, and away we go.
There you go. When you talk about the Charleston Fire Department, do you take volunteer fire departments, or is it all paid? And is there any openings or any needs right now at CFD?
We're actually full staffed right now. There's no not part-time. There's no volunteer positions on the Charleston Department. We're all a paid department. So.
What about training? When you talk about your training, what's next for you? We're talking to Beau Goodwin. He's a Charleston firefighter, and we're kind of going through a lot of different stuff. This rapid fire throwing stuff at him. But what's next in your training, Beau, as you continue on your career?
I wouldn't say there's any one thing. Just constantly making all my skills better and more efficient. And just kind of looking at the big picture and maybe preparing myself for a ways down the road, possibly being in that officer role.
Okay. What's the most important trait a firefighter needs to have?
There's not one trait. There need to be many traits. You need to be hardworking, loyal, trustworthy. You always have the guy's back, and always you're watching the guy's back just as much to your right as he's watching your back. So, you want to be able to trust that guy. So, that's a huge trait, because you're going in, he's protecting you, you're protecting him. That's a lot of responsibility you're putting on somebody.
Do you guys get scared when you're going into a Mother's fire or a big fire like that? Is it scare, or is it just more adrenaline knowing you have a job to do? Because there's a fine line, I think, there between that.
There's a very fine line. I wouldn't say that. I would think that it would almost be more dangerous not being scared, because fire is something that is scary. It can hurt you, it can kill you. It's not something to mess with. So I think you always need to keep. You don't ever want to not be scared of it, because it is so dangerous.
I don't know if you'd say that or not. Yeah. So that's good. Now, what about somebody who, let's say they have a fire in their house, they're trying to get out. Take us through what they should do and shouldn't do, because we've always heard stuff about, don't open a window, or do open a window, or don't touch a doorknob. Take us through some of those tricks of the trade, for lack of a better term.
So I guess the biggest thing is, and then a big push to what you're doing now, is you should sleep with your bedroom door shut. It's amazing the difference that the research has done lately, that if your bedroom door is shut and there's a fire in the other part of your house, it buys you so much more time, as that fire almost skips over that door if your house catches on fire and burns the rest of it, and not that bedroom. It keeps the smoke out and everything else like that. And you can, hopefully you have smoke detectors and they go off and you can exit out that window. And obviously, no matter if your door's shut, you want to feel it, make sure it's not warm. And if it is, then if you have a window, exit out it. Now, if you're on the second story, open up your window, leave your door shut, and then wave a blanket, a pillow, something bright, and then we should be there in just a few minutes, and we'll throw a ladder and come up and get you.
There you go.
So, and now the I guess the tricky question is, what do you do when there's someone else in the house or an animal in the house?
So what do you mean by
So, like, if, say there's a fire, you're in your house, you're in your room, but your roommate's down at the end of the hall, or your pet is in the living room. Now, what, as a fireman, what do you advise people do?
Ooh, that's a very...
Take care of yourself first, right?
Yeah, I see. Obviously, take care of yourself. If your friend's down at the end of the hallway and you know you can make it there or whatever, I can't say that I would or wouldn't. I mean, it's really going to depend on the situation. As far as a pet goes, you're way more important than your pet. Me personally, I mean, it all just depends. I mean, if there's a whole bunch of fire into the hallway, obviously I wouldn't go get my dog. I'm going to save me first. And, we don't want you to try to go help somebody and then you get hurt and then they hopped out the window or something like that. So, but I know that at Eastern the RAs, they go through training and they're supposed to go down the hallway. You knock on all the doors, you get everybody out as you make your way to the exit.
Right.
So,
Firehouse, when you're not fighting fires or going on ambulance calls or getting cats out of trees or whatever it is, the duties of being in the firehouse. 'Cause you live with these guys for 1 to 3 days, 1, 2, 3 days a week, depending on how it falls. So the new guy, do you have to do most of the grunt work and do the cooking, or are you still on that kind of progress?
I mean, it depends on what shift you're on and everything that, and then what station you're at and everything, that depends. I mean, as far as the new guy, first year's probation, you're in charge of, you do the dishes, you're the last person to sit down, you're the first person to set up. In the morning, the guys, you check the ambulances, you're always the first person out there, you come back, you don't ever sit down. Especially whenever you first start, there's always stuff you can learn, but whenever you first start, there's a multitude of things. You should be going through the trucks, know where everything's at, know how everything works, know where this is at, know how to hook that up. You should be studying the map, all the addresses. I mean, as far as those go, we try to cook supper together at least every night. Just kind of a brotherhood thing, a traditional thing. We try to cook it. But if you're on probation, it's your first year, it's your turn to do the dishes, you do it. So,
are you still the new guy, or is there other guys under you now?
Actually, on my shift, there's 2 people underneath me, just the way that it was hired. So I'm kind of right in the middle of where I'm at my station. So, but I mean, I'm still young enough. I'm doing the dishes and helping clean just as much as they are.
When do you think, being the new guy on the probation or somewhere, when do you think that you actually, the guys, the older guys, the experienced captains and everybody say, hey, we trust him 100%? I mean, at what level do you think that? Is it after 1 year, or is it after you do something great on a fire call, or what?
I think that would more boil down to, training with those guys and really showing them that you know what they're doing. As far as time frame, everybody's different. I mean, it's just the more effort you put into it, I would assume they would accept you earlier. I don't think it's at the 1 year mark.
Okay.
I think there's still plenty of time to learn after that. So,
when you think about 9/11 and you think about what those firefighters did on that day, what goes through your mind as a firefighter now here in Charleston?
One of the bravest thing that I can ever think anybody's done. I mean, that was incredible. I mean, it's just also the saddest thing. I mean, there's not too many words that can actually describe it. I mean, it's a huge loss. I feel sorry for them and their families. I mean, you hope that they were doing something that they loved, but I mean, it's definitely hard.
It was a crazy day.
Yeah.
Crazy day. What's the best thing about being a firefighter?
Best thing?
Best thing. Just nice coming here, I mean.
Well, besides coming here, yeah. I would say just whenever, you have a lady or something or a guy, they come in and thank you, or you see you do something to help them out so great and they come in, or somebody was not breathing or their heart wasn't beating, they come into the station the next day and they say, hey, thank you very much, and that feeling just is so great. You just feel like, hey, I really did something, I made a difference. You just saved that lady's life, or you saved somebody's home or saved somebody from a building or whatever. I mean, those feelings are just, people have so much gratitude towards you, and you just feel, I don't even know how to explain. You just feel warm and fuzzy.
Cue the tears. That's a good answer.
Is there a mentor that you look up to? I mean, in the fire department world, and you can't say your dad because that's the obvious one, okay?
Well, he's definitely one for sure. So, I look at him, man, I'll even go to work and, we'll have some stuff and I'll think, man, what if I would have done it this way? And, if I don't think about it at work, I think about home, Dad, I'll talk about stuff. I'll go over and have coffee in the morning. We'll talk for an hour about what happened to work or this or that, or what do you think? And so, no, definitely some of the officers, or all the officers, they've had tons of experience. Look up to them. I mean, there's some senior firefighters that, some of them have been there for 5 or 6 years, but I really look up to them. I mean, you can learn something from everybody.
That's a good answer. Is there a favorite movie or TV show that you think depicts the fire department or a firefighter in the correct way as you look back on it?
Oh, man. I'm I'm trying to think of. I only know of
Backdraft was the most famous fire movie. And then Chicago Fire is on now, which is a decent show.
I said I've never seen Chicago Fire, so I can't comment on that one. I mean, I've seen Backdraft.
Yeah.
I mean, that relates to some of your firehouses duties and stuff like that, and the brotherhood and messing with each other. And then I know Ladder 49 kind of depicts on, we definitely. I mean, we work hard, but we also mess with each other pretty good too. So
the behind-the-scenes stuff,
yes.
Right? What was the first fire call you went to here in Charleston? What was the first one? Do you remember where it was at?
It was an ambulance call south of town is what it was. So the lady had fallen and she needed help up, and we ended up taking her to the hospital, and everything was fine, but we weren't sure, so away we went.
There you go. And you'll never forget that one, right?
Nope, won't ever forget the first one.
Was the adrenaline pumping on the truck that day?
Definitely a little nervous. So, especially when I first got hired, Dad was still there. So then you're like, oh yeah, I'm like, oh man, I don't want to do anything wrong.
So what's that like working with your dad? I just think that's so cool.
Oh, it was awesome. I enjoyed it. I told him we got to work together for 8 months before he retired. So no, it was awesome. I mean, the guys gave me a hard time, a pretty hard time all the time. But I mean,
that's the boss's son.
Yeah. No, and then I accidentally called him Dad one day at work, and then it was like, oh boy. So.
What is one thing that people do not know about fire? Because fire does act strangely. So like how it breathes and how it moves and stuff. When you think about fire as itself.
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, it's not just like the fire burns stuff and you put one that goes out. I mean, it breathes and needs oxygen. The smoke, you can read the smoke. It tells us everything about the fire. It spreads differently. Different things react to it. I mean, some fires you can't put out with water. Some fire you can't see. And there's a lot of different aspects. It's not just as simple as throwing water on it.
Okay, let's turn this all back around. You came here today to talk a little bit about the Thanksgiving food basket. We know we couldn't commit an entire show to that, so we want to talk a lot about fire safety and what people can get ready for as they do that. It's Wiener roast time and all the stuff that they need to be safe about. But go back to the Thanksgiving food basket and ask the people, or tell the people of Charleston what they can do to help the Charleston Fire Department make this event great.
So if anybody wants to help Thanksgiving food basket, you're more than welcome. You can drop by donations to the fire department. Either the one north of town on 10th Street, or you can the one south of town right behind McDonald's. That's how everybody knows that one.
Yep.
A food basket costs $40. However, any donation helps, and then all the money either goes back to the community, Thanksgiving food baskets, Camp New Hope, or the scholarships for the Charleston High School kids.
Keep in mind, folks, each year they feed 200 families who don't have Thanksgiving like maybe we would. So if you can give, we'd appreciate it. And Beau, it was great to meet you.
Hey, thank you.
I know your dad well, and he's a good guy, always a friend of WEIU. Good to know you, and I'm glad you got to come in. And I think you represented your Charleston Fire Department very well today as a relatively new person who came in and told the stories about being a fireman and what it takes to be you. So you did a great job today, sir.
Hey, thank you very much for having me.
And Lisa, any final words from you?
Thank you for coming. Absolutely.
All right. We'll be back next week right here on Issues and Attitudes. This is MX 88.9 WEIU, Year 13, WEIU, WEIU.net, and all the rest.
Variety. It's what we play best. This is Hit Mix 88.9 WEIU.